joining us now is Megan Essaheb. Megan is the Assistant Director of Immigration and Immigrant Rights for a group called Asian Americans Advancing Justice. They've been working on the Muslim ban case that's making its way through the courts now. Megan advocates in Congress and at federal agencies for issues affecting immigrants and immigrant rights, immigration reform, guest worker programs, family reunification, all the related issues. And obviously the Muslim ban is making its way through the court now. So first of all, Megan, thanks for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me, Richard.
Absolutely. Now, you guys, one of the courts, I'm sorry, I can't remember if it's the 4th District or one of the courts is reviewing the Trump's Muslim ban now, and you guys had a demonstration the other day about it. Could you tell us about that a little bit? It's the 4th Circuit, if I recall correctly.
Sure, that's right. It's the 4th Circuit. On Monday, May 8th, Asian Americans Advancing Justice, AAJC, hosted a rally outside the court in Richmond, Virginia. And it was outside the case is called the International Refugee Assistance Project and Essaheb v. Trump. We had a bunch of partners, both national and local organizations, join us, and about 200 people showed up to the event. The event was part of a national week of resistance with the hashtag No Muslim Ban Ever, and it was also part of a AAPI, which is Asian American Pacific Islander month of resistance, because May is AAPI Heritage Month.
So, okay, and what is, just so that we have a stronger sense of your group, what does
Sure.
Asian Americans Advancing Justice do?
So I work for Asian Americans Advancing Justice, AAJC, which is in Washington, D.C., and we're a civil rights organization that seeks to advance the civil and human rights for Asian Americans and to build and promote a fair and equitable society for all. So we're part of an independent affiliation of 5 AAPI organizations. So we have the other affiliates are Asian Americans Advancing Justice, Atlanta, Chicago, LA, and the affiliate in San Francisco is Advancing Justice, ALC. So it's a little bit confusing, but
No, that's okay. So you guys had a demonstration in Richmond outside the courthouse. We are recording on Thursday. What is the current status of that case? Where are the judges still hearing arguments?
So in that case, we're waiting for a decision. Now, there's 2 parallel cases moving right now. So on Monday, the 15th, the 9th Circuit in Seattle is going to hear a case brought by the state of Hawaii. And so it's sort of a little bit of a race. We don't know which court will come out with a decision first, but there were a bunch of other cases filed as well. All of the other lawsuits are on hold, waiting to see what the 9th Circuit and the 4th Circuit will decide. So the 4th Circuit, this case, the IRAP case, the district court judge only blocked the provision of the order that bans people from the 6 predominantly Muslim countries. And the 9th Circuit case, that order blocked the refugee provisions as well, so they're a little bit different. So actually, regardless of what's decided in the 4th Circuit case, the Circuit order will apply to the country. Pretty positive that the 4th Circuit's going to uphold the district court's decision, but either way, we're likely looking at the case, one or both of the cases together, going to the Supreme Court next year.
Now, in terms of the merit of the case, we had initial rulings against Trump's first I'm going to call it a Muslim ban because that's how it reads to me. And then the second time around, they tried to reframe it so that it was less conspicuously discriminatory. I'm just going to reveal, show my hand in all of this, but nevertheless discriminatory. Now, the argument that I understand, the counter argument that's being made is that if you don't allow Donald Trump to restrict travel in this way, you're tying his hands and the government's hands against fighting terrorism. But the argument against Trump's Muslim ban is that you cannot discriminate against people based on their religion and background, and that Trump has telegraphed to the world, based on his campaign statements and other statements, that in fact his intention is to ban Muslims, not per se to anything else, but that he talked about a Muslim ban. This is it. Do I have the arguments more or less correct?
That's exactly right. I think most of the Fourth Circuit arguments on Monday turned over the government telling the judges they think they should just look at the text, the plain language of the order, and the plaintiff saying, no, you need to look at the entire context, that outside of the text, President Trump and his close advisors have repeatedly said this is a Muslim ban. And so that's seems to be the biggest issue that will be decided. And then there's some other issues, but basically the first Muslim ban had more language in it that indicated targeting of Muslims. Most, I think, blatantly there was language saying that they would let in refugees on a case-by-case basis give a preference to refugees who are minorities in their country, and it pretty clearly indicates that they want to let in Christians and Yazidis from Syria, but not Muslims. So that language was taken out in Muslim Ban 2.0, and so now the government's trying to say, well, by the plain, text of the language, it's not discriminatory. But, we see this, and then the other issue of deference and whether or not, when the court should just believe the executive branch when they invoke national security is a big issue. And we see it come up time and time again. So, when they assert this is a matter of national security, they tend to say, oh, it should not be questioned. But there needs to be a limit to that power. So, if they say the information is too sensitive for Congress to look at it, and they say the courts can't review it, that's, investing a lot of power in the executive branch. And we certainly saw with the Japanese internment case, which we liken our present situation to. President Roosevelt said, this is a matter of national security. We have to intern these Japanese Americans, and told the Supreme Court they shouldn't have anything to say about that. And the court agreed with them, but then later in 1983, the court acknowledged that they were wrong, and the Supreme Court overturned that decision, mostly for symbolic purposes. And since then, we've seen with the Guantanamo Bay cases that the courts are not just going to say, oh, it's not national security, we defer to the executive. People still have rights, we still have a constitution, and the courts, are going to weigh in. So I think that's what we've seen so far in these cases.
Yeah, and it's worth, I know people know this, but it's worth reiterating that we're not talking about abstract legal theory here. We're talking about human lives. We're talking about people who are likely to live or die, families who will or won't be reunited. There is an enormous human cost to this sort of discriminatory measure, right?
Oh, absolutely. I know one of the people blocked at the airports, people were coming for their child to have heart surgery to the U.S.
Right.
Other in the first case that we saw get an order after the first Muslim ban, Mr. Darwish had worked for the U.S. military in Iraq during the war, and his life was at risk. So, certainly for some people, it's a matter of life or death. But, for others, other people shouldn't be denied coming to the United States if they've applied and gotten into college or graduate program. And, just because they're Muslim, I mean, people had to withdraw from potentially university or medical residencies. So, those things also have a lasting impact on people's lives.
So let me ask you, are you, and are the rest of you at the Advancing Justice team, are you guys optimistic that these cases will hold up, that they'll come out the right way, that the courts will do the right thing, or do we just not know at this point?
I'm very optimistic, certainly, at this stage in both of the circuits. It was very interesting in the Fourth Circuit because typically 3 judges hear an appeal, a panel of 3 appellate judges, but the court said they wanted the entire panel of judges to hear the case. And, we think that indicates they think it's very important. So, I think oral arguments went well on Monday, and I anticipate winning in the near future. Maybe the Supreme Court's a different story, but, we also saw, I forget if it was a week or 2 ago, my office wrote an amicus brief in this Maslenjik case. It's about when the government can denaturalize, take away people's citizenship, people who are immigrants who've gotten citizenship. And Chief Justice Roberts was very skeptical of the government's position in a way that he isn't typically. And we saw the same skepticism from Justice Kennedy. So to me, that indicates perhaps at least in the realm of immigration, the Supreme Court is maybe going to be ready to check this administration's power. Well,
let's hope so. So where can people go, before I let you go, where can people go to find out more about you guys and what you're doing?
So certainly our website, which I'm sorry, I always just Google. So it's advancingjustice-aajc.org. And people can sign up on our email list right on our website, and they'll get updates about our work. And they can follow us on Twitter as well, where we always push out our blogs.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Megan Essaheb, Assistant Director of Immigration and Immigrant Rights at Asian Americans Advancing Justice. Thanks for following this issue, and thanks for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me.